Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video today, I will show you how to create these oxidized copper procedural textures in Blender. Before we jump in, consider hitting the like button and subscribing. It really helps my channel out. Before we start texturing, make sure that your render engine is set to cycles and that your device is set to GPU compute. I also have my viewport max samples settings set to 50, and I also have denoise enabled. Let's start off by getting rid of this default cube and adding a UV sphere and going under Object and Shading Smooth. This is important. So with this done, we can go to the shading panel right here and click New to bring up our node settings. And let's also switch to rendered view mode if you're not already in that. So let's start off by increasing this metallic from 0 all the way to 1 and the roughness to 0.3. And let's add a Voronoi texture. And we want to add a color ramp. And let's connect the distance to the factor and the color from the color ramp to the color of the principled BSDF. And then with the Voronoi texture selected, if you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can hold down Control and press T, and it'll bring up a texture coordinate and mapping node. Connect the object to the vector. It'll basically make the details of the Voronoi texture and color ramp a bit finer. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make some changes to the Voronoi texture before we do anything with the color. Let's change it from 3D to 4D, and this feature output needs to be changed from F1 to distance to edge. And let's increase the scale right here to about 7. And the detail, let's crank it all the way to 15. And it makes everything really dark, but we're going to make some changes. Let's make this black color right here a brown, a dark brown. Let's start off by dragging the slider up about halfway. And this little guy right here, we want to get it right about here to right where the brown or where the red starts to meet the orange. And with the white slider selected right here, we can use the eyedropper tool to duplicate that color. And then we can drag this slider up to about 95% of the way. And that way we have a dark brown and a lighter brown. I'm even going to make this a little bit lighter. Yeah, that's better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add 2 new colors. So that way we can get that oxidized color look in there. Start off also by dragging this slider to where it's just at the border of the plus sign. And let's make this color a really dark blue. And let's drag the slider down to where it's about 30%. Let's make it a really dark blue. And then this one right here, let's make this a bright green and drag the slider down to about halfway. All right, that's good. And right now, what we're going to do is just start crunching these colors by dragging them really close together. And as we do that, we start to get more of the blue and green, and it starts to take on that oxidized look just at the edges, as you can see. Now, one thing I want to do here before I go too much further forward is click normalize, and you can see that it just changes the entire look right away and just kind of gives it this cracked sort of edge look right now. All right, now we're ready for our noise texture. Let's just plug that in right below the Voronoi and connect the vector to the vector right here. And let's duplicate our color ramp and just bring it down here. Now let's connect the factor to the factor. And we're going to just drag this slider way out here so we can get rid of these colors. Make sure that they're selected and click minus. Now, you can't see anything going on with this right now. It's because we're actually not going to connect the noise texture and color ramp to the actual base color. We're going to use this in a bump node. So what we're going to do here is drag these out and add a bump node. And we're going to connect the color from this color ramp to the height, and we're going to connect the normal to the normal. And what we're going to do here is increase this distance to 0.4. And it already gives it a little bit of depth, which is nice. So let's duplicate this bump node right here. And we're going to connect the color from the noise texture color ramp right here. And we're going to decrease this bump node's distance right here to 0.1. Now, I want to just make a quick change. Let's bring this slider to about here. And we'll drag this slider to about right here. And let's make a little change right here. Let's just increase the detail all the way to 15. And I feel like already that makes a huge difference in just the way that this looks right off the bat, as you can see as it renders. So let's go up here real quick. And I think I want to just increase the roughness to 0.6. It's a subtle detail, but I like that. And I'm going to decrease this to about 1.8. And yeah, for this cracked copper oxidized texture, you are done. And you could start making changes to this as you wish, depending on your project's needs. You can use the W right here to just move things around, you know, can increase that to whatever. And if you just want things to look a little bit different, you can, you know, move this around with the noise texture to just give it a different look, smoother if you so desire. But if this is what you're looking for, you are done. And now we can move on to the second texture. All right, now let's move on to our second copper texture that features a more pronounced oxidized effect throughout its entire mesh. Let's begin by adding a UV sphere to our scene and moving it on the x-axis right here, a little bit to the y-axis, and let's also shade it smooth. Let's also click New to enable all of our node setups, and let's get a noise texture going for this. So we're going to put this right here and add a color ramp and connect the factor to the factor and the color to the color here. And we're going to hold down Control and press T to bring up our texture coordinate and mapping node and connect the object to the vector right here. And what we want to do is change the color immediately. Let's start off by making this black. Once again, a brown color in case you haven't guessed. Somewhere we're going to adjust the slider here and bring this color about here where the red and the orange kind of meet. Yeah, I'd say right about there. You could feel it out, whatever works for you. And let's, of course, get the white going and duplicate this color with the eyedropper tool. And we're going to make this one just a little bit darker. Yeah, on this particular setup, I want these colors to be darker. So let's add 2 more colors. Let's select this one and make sure that it is right about here. And we're going to just adjust this a little bit more so it's just a bit darker. Yeah, and this one too. Also going to make an adjustment to where it's just a little bit darker than the previous blue right there. Yeah, I think that's good. So yeah, in colors here, you're definitely going to want to see what works for you. If you don't like the way this turned out exactly, you can totally make adjustments. So let's crunch these together a bit. Let's get this guy in here to where it's right about aligned with the B, and we'll start getting these blues really tight in here and get this slider to where it's, I'd say, equally between this arrow and the R. And you can see we're starting to get a little bit of that oxidized look. Obviously, bump nodes are really going to make it pop. So let's increase the scale to 8 and the detail to 15 right here. And just a little bit of distortion, I think, is a good idea with this. Just 0.2, just a little bit. So let's just bring that right here. And let's duplicate our noise texture. And we're going to connect the vector from our mapping node to the vector of our second noise texture right here. And let's duplicate our color ramp and bring this all out right here. And let's just connect this color ramp with this noise texture right here. And let's introduce a mix color node so we can see a little bit more of what's happening as we work. So let's do this, and we're going to connect the second color ramp to color B right here. And we're going to now bring this slider over here. And I'm going to just, I think I'm going to make this color a little bit darker, just a tiny bit. Yeah. And I want it to be, I would say, right beneath the N in linear right here. And let's get this blue and let's change it to a really vibrant green, And let's bring that slider up. I'd say almost about halfway, or sorry, 75%. That looks pretty good. And let's bring this pretty close. Not as close as we have been. I like a little bit of a distance right here in that. And let's change this blue. Let's make this one just a little bit darker. Just a little bit darker. And I want this blue to just like I said, or sorry, to be right here at this G and B right here between them. And let's bring this color in really, really close. Yeah, that's looking good. And I want to change the scale on this to 4. Yeah, there we go. You can see we have a bit of a layering effect going on. Now let's introduce some bump nodes to really give this texture some life. So right here, I'm going to add our first bump node. And I'm going to connect the first color ramp to the height and the normal to the normal right here. I want to click invert right here. And then I'm going to make the adjustment to 0.05. Yeah, and you can see it just gives it a little bit, just ever so slight amount of bump, which I think is really good. Sometimes less is more. Now let's duplicate this bump node and drop it right here, which it'll automatically connect. And we'll connect our second color ramp right here. And let's unclick invert and change the distance to 0.150 right here. And we're now going to increase the metallic all the way and change the roughness to 0.2. And I think that looks really good. I think that looks really good as a oxidized copper texture. You kind of have a little bit of a variation between both, you know, if you want something that's really pronounced on the surface or something that's just sort of scattered around the edges, you have a little bit of a variation. Let's go back into the layout tab right here and let's add a plane and we'll make it really big. And move it down on the z-axis just a little bit to where it's just right about here, so the copper textures are right up there. Make it a little bit bigger, and let's assign this texture right here to the plane. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah. I mean, if you want to use this in a variety of projects, you can definitely make use of, you know, copper textures in, you know, a myriad of ways. And this way you can like choose on how detailed you want it around, you know, certain parameters, like I said, the cracks or just the overall effect. But yeah, you get a bit of a variety right here, and I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, if you learned something from this video, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel and checking out some of my other content. And yeah, just create something awesome out there and have a good day. Have a good weekend. Take it easy out there.